You ever get that feeling like the universe just cracked open and whispered your name? Like you've been walking through fog for months, maybe years, and suddenly the air clears and you can see for miles. That's not chance. That's not luck. That's your soul finally saying yes to something it's been preparing for longer than your mind could ever understand. And if you're here right now, if something magnetic pulled you to these exact words at this exact moment, it's because you've crossed an invisible threshold. You've moved from hoping things will change to actually being ready for them to change. And between those two states lies an entire universe of difference. Most people spend decades circling around their own potential, like moths around a flame, getting close enough to feel the heat, but never brave enough to dive in. They want the transformation. They crave the breakthrough. They dream about the life that's waiting on the other side of their fear. But wanting is comfortable. Wanting lets you play with possibility without risking anything real. Readiness? Readiness is terrifying because it means you've run out of places to hide. It means you've hit that point where staying the same hurts more than the unknown ever could. And that's exactly where you are right now, isn't it? You can feel it in your bones. This restless energy that won't let you settle back into old patterns. You've been experiencing things lately that most people never even notice. Sleep that doesn't refresh you because your dreams are too vivid, too meaningful to ignore. Moments where you just know things without knowing how you know them. Numbers that seem to follow you everywhere. Patterns that feel too consistent to be coincidence. People from your past showing up in your thoughts or your feed at precisely the moments when you need to understand something about your journey. Your intuition has been turned up so high, it's almost overwhelming. You walk into rooms and immediately sense what's really happening beneath the surface conversations. You can feel when someone's being authentic or performing, when an opportunity is real or just another distraction. This isn't you becoming psychic. This is you finally tuning into frequencies you've always had access to but were too busy, too scared, or too convinced you were ordinary to notice. And there's this growing restlessness with everything that used to satisfy you. Conversations that once felt meaningful now feel shallow. Activities that used to fill your time now feel like elaborate ways to avoid what you're really supposed to be doing. You're outgrowing your current life faster than you can figure out what's supposed to replace it. And that gap between who you're becoming and where you currently are is creating a tension that keeps you awake at night. This isn't happening to everyone. This isn't some universal human experience that 7 billion people are simultaneously navigating. You're part of something much smaller, much rarer. You're among the tiny percentage of souls who agreed, before you ever took your first breath, to wake up during this lifetime. While others are content to sleepwalk through their days, following scripts written by fear and limitation, you're being activated for something completely different. Most people live their entire lives without ever questioning the story they were handed about what's possible for them. They inherit beliefs about money, love, success, and purpose from people who inherited those same beliefs, from people who never questioned them either. Generation after generation of beautiful souls accepting limitation as truth, scarcity as natural law, and mediocrity as wisdom. But you're different. You've always been different. Even as a child, you sensed there was more available than what the adults around you were accessing. You felt possibilities in your body that nobody taught you words for. You had experiences that you learned to keep to yourself because they didn't fit into anyone else's understanding of how life works. And now, finally, your system is mature enough, strong enough, integrated enough to handle what you came here to do. This transformation you're experiencing follows ancient patterns that wisdom keepers mapped out long before psychology had names for these stages. First comes the dissolution, where everything that was holding your old identity together starts to crumble. The relationships that were built on who you used to be begin to feel forced. The goals that once motivated you suddenly seem empty. The version of success you were chasing reveals itself as someone else's definition that you accidentally adopted as your own. Then comes what spiritual traditions call the void walk, that disorienting phase where you're no longer who you were, but not yet who you're becoming. This is where most people panic and retreat back to familiar dysfunction, because uncertainty feels more dangerous than dissatisfaction. You might be in this phase right now, feeling untethered, questioning everything, wondering if you're losing your mind or finally finding it. But if you can breathe through the dissolution, if you can walk through the void without running back to what's familiar, you enter the clarity download phase. This is where your purpose doesn't just become clear, it becomes undeniable. not as some grand mission that requires you to save the world, but as a simple, powerful knowing of what you're here to contribute. Your gifts stop feeling like hobbies and start feeling like responsibilities. Your unique perspective stops feeling weird and starts feeling essential. From clarity comes the magnetic pull phase, where opportunities don't just appear, they seek you out. People, resources, connections, and possibilities that were always there but invisible to your unprepared consciousness suddenly become obvious and available. You stop chasing and start choosing. You stop pushing and start allowing. You stop trying to force outcomes and start trusting the intelligence that's been orchestrating this transformation all along. Finally, you reach the reality bridge phase where the internal shifts you've been experiencing start materializing in your external world. Your financial reality shifts to match your expanded sense of worthiness. Your relationships evolve to honor the person you've become. Your work transforms from something you do to survive into something you do to serve. Your daily life becomes a reflection of your inner awakening rather than a contradiction to it. But here's where 90% of people sabotage everything they've worked toward. Right before the breakthrough, right before the manifestation, right before the life they've been preparing for becomes their actual life, they hit what I call the final resistance storm. This is where every fear you've ever had about your own power shows up wearing different costumes, but carrying the same message. You're not ready. You're not worthy. You're not strong enough to handle what you're asking for. Your old identity doesn't go quietly. It's been running your life for decades, and it knows that once you step fully into who you're becoming, it won't be needed anymore. So it fights back with everything it has. It brings up every past failure as evidence that you can't be trusted with success. It points to every relationship that ended as proof that you're not lovable. It highlights every time you started something and didn't finish it as confirmation that you don't have what it takes. And it's not just internal resistance. The people around you, especially the ones who've known you the longest, start acting strangely. They make jokes about your new interests. They question your new boundaries. They remind you of who you used to be as if that person was more real than who you're becoming. This isn't because they don't love you. It's because your transformation threatens their comfort with staying stuck. Your willingness to evolve forces them to confront their own unwillingness to change. Family members who've relied on you playing small suddenly feel threatened by your expansion. Friends who bonded with you over shared limitations don't know how to connect with your new possibility. Colleagues who were comfortable with your old level of engagement become uncomfortable with your newfound clarity and purpose. Even romantic partners can struggle when you stop needing them to complete you and start choosing them from wholeness instead of emptiness. This is the phase where most people decide that maybe their old life wasn't so bad after all. They interpret the resistance as a sign they're going in the wrong direction instead of understanding it as confirmation they're going in the right one. They mistake the darkness before dawn for evidence that the sun isn't coming up. But you're not most people. If you were, you wouldn't have found your way here. If you were, these words wouldn't be resonating in your chest like a tuning fork, matching a frequency you recognize but have never heard this clearly before. The resistance isn't trying to stop you. It's trying to test your commitment. It's the universe asking, how badly do you want this transformation? Are you willing to let go of everything that feels safe but isn't serving you? Are you ready to trust your expansion even when everyone around you is invested in your contraction? There are protocols for navigating this storm, ancient techniques disguised as simple practices that can carry you through the most intense waves of resistance. When doubt spirals start spinning in your mind, you can interrupt them with what I call the 3-breath reset. Breathe in for 4 counts while thinking, I am becoming. Hold for 4 counts while thinking, exactly who I'm meant to be. Exhale for 4 counts while thinking, in perfect timing. 3 rounds of this will shift your nervous system out of panic and back into trust. Every morning, before you check your phone or engage with anyone else's energy, spend 5 minutes setting your intention for the day. Not your goals or your to-do list, but your intention for who you want to be. Today I choose to move from trust instead of fear. Today I choose to respond instead of react. Today I choose to see opportunities instead of obstacles. This simple practice creates an energetic framework that helps you navigate whatever the day brings from your new frequency instead of your old patterns. When other people's reactions to your changes start affecting your confidence, practice the energy protection visualization. Imagine yourself surrounded by a bubble of light that allows love and support to pass through but bounces criticism and doubt back to where it came from. You're not building walls, you're creating boundaries. You're not shutting people out, you're protecting your transformation until it's strong enough to withstand other people's fears. Keep what I call an evidence journal, a simple record of the synchronicities, opportunities, and moments of clarity that are showing up as confirmation you're on the right path. When resistance tries to convince you that nothing is working, you'll have documented proof of all the ways the universe has been responding to your readiness. Write down the meaningful coincidences, the unexpected connections, the times when exactly what you needed appeared exactly when you needed it. And when people in your life start questioning your changes, have a simple script ready. I'm growing into who I've always been, beneath who I thought I had to be. I understand this might feel different, but I hope you can support me in becoming the best version of myself. You don't need to explain or justify or convince. You just need to stay clear about your direction while remaining loving toward those who aren't ready to understand it yet. As you implement these protocols, as you learn to navigate the resistance with grace instead of fighting it with force, you'll start noticing something incredible happening. The person you're becoming isn't someone new. They're someone you've always been beneath the layers of conditioning and fear and other people's expectations. This isn't about adding something to yourself. It's about removing everything that was never really you in the first place. You're already becoming more selective about how you spend your energy, choosing connection over networking, depth over breadth, quality over quantity. People are starting to notice there's something different about your presence, something more grounded and authentic and magnetic. You're no longer performing your life for an audience, you're living it from the inside out. Opportunities are appearing that match your values instead of just your resume. Conversations are happening that feed your soul instead of just filling time. Money starts flowing in ways that feel aligned with your purpose instead of disconnected from your passion. Relationships either deepen into something more real or naturally dissolve without drama, making space for connections that celebrate who you're becoming instead of clinging to who you used to be. Your intuition becomes so clear it's almost audible. You know which opportunities to take and which to pass on. You can sense what's going to serve your growth and what's going to distract from it. You make decisions faster because you trust the intelligence that's been guiding this transformation from the beginning. You stop second-guessing yourself because you finally understand that your inner knowing is more reliable than other people's opinions. The version of confidence you're developing doesn't need external validation because it's rooted in internal truth. You're not trying to convince anyone of anything. You're simply showing up as who you are and trusting that the right people, opportunities, and experiences will recognize and respond to your authenticity. You're becoming magnetic, not because you're trying to attract, but because you're no longer hiding. Your relationship with uncertainty shifts completely. Instead of seeing unknown outcomes as threats, you start experiencing them as possibilities. Instead of needing to control every variable, you learn to influence what you can and trust the process with what you can't. You develop what ancient traditions called faith, not as blind belief, but as confidence in the intelligence that's been orchestrating your evolution all along. The work you do starts feeling less like work and more like contribution. Whether it's the same job with a completely different energy or an entirely new direction that emerged from your transformation, you're no longer trading your life force for money. You're exchanging your gifts for resources that allow you to keep growing and serving at higher levels. Your career becomes a vehicle for your purpose instead of an obstacle to it. Even your relationship with money transforms. You stop seeing it as scarce or evil or complicated and start experiencing it as energy that flows toward value and service. You become comfortable receiving because you understand you're not taking from a limited supply. You're participating in an infinite circulation. Your financial reality shifts to match your expanded sense of what you're worth and what you're here to contribute. This isn't fantasy. This isn't wishful thinking. This is what happens when someone who's been preparing for years finally becomes ready to receive. You're not trying to become someone else. you're finally relaxing into who you've always been beneath who you thought you had to be. And that person, the real you, has capacities and possibilities that your conditioned mind never imagined were available. The only question remaining is whether you're ready to claim what's already yours. Not someday when you feel more prepared, not when the conditions are perfect, not when you've figured out every detail. Now. Because ready people don't wait for perfect timing, they make timing perfect by finally deciding to move. Your dreams aren't coming, they're already here, waiting for you to step into alignment with them. The life you've been preparing for isn't somewhere in the future. It's available right now in this moment, in the choice to trust what you feel instead of what you fear, to believe what your soul knows instead of what your conditioning taught you. If this lands in your system like truth remembering itself, if something in these words matched something in your experience that you've never heard spoken out loud before, drop a comment and simply say, "I'm ready." No explanation needed. No story required. Just those 2 words as a declaration to yourself and the universe that you're done waiting and ready to become. And if you know someone who's been circling around their own transformation, someone who's been experiencing these shifts but doesn't have words for what's happening, share this with them. They might need to hear it just as much as you did. We're not meant to walk this path alone. We're meant to recognize each other and support each other in becoming who we came here to be. The universe has been preparing this moment for longer than your mind can understand. Everything that brought you here, every experience that shaped you, every challenge that strengthened you, it was all in service of this readiness. You're not behind schedule, you're not too late, you're not missing anything. You're exactly where you need to be, finally ready to step into everything you've always been.